Cheese, episode 504. I'm your Joe Dix, joined by Mark Augustiniak.
Hey.
Matt Zellner.
Hello.
The Free Cheese is a weekly video game podcast about video games brought to you once a week by thefreecheese.com. This week, we are ranking and reviewing Ico, the PlayStation 2 classic. As Season 11 continues, and we add another game to thefreecheese.com/the list. More on Ico very shortly, but first I would like to know, Mark, what is the first game you played that did not have a user interface? I love when I ask a question and that's the face you make. Listeners can't see it, obviously, but it's that face of like, why are you asking me this? I don't have a good answer for this, but that's a good question, Joe. You're doing great.
No, that's me thinking hard. Because, like, if people haven't noticed, I suck at on the spot. So, like, I'll have an answer now, and then I'll hate the answer, and I'll have a better one by the end of the episode. So I'll be thinking about it the whole time.
Mark,
I've said pass before.
Yeah, no, you can do that. You could also host a show
pass.
where you don't have an answer to the question, you ask it, and then you buy time while the other two answer.
You said the first game?
I don't know. It's a hard one to come up with an icebreaker for. But
I can't think of another game right now.
Like, I have like a half answer, I guess.
Yeah.
Because, like, old Final Fantasies, you don't have anything until you press start or go into a battle.
Yeah, that's fair.
I mean, I guess most RPGs in that sense are kind of like that.
No, it's very good. I've been playing that Final Fantasy III Pixel Remaster.
Oh, yeah?
And I can concur. That is, yeah. All right, Final Fantasy III is my answer, so thank you, Mark.
Oh, man.
No, we see it, maybe not first, but like there's good games that do examples of it. I played some of A Short Hike recently. That's been interesting, pulling some Breath of the Wild mechanics into a smaller type game. But yeah, that one has no, from what for as far as I've gotten to.
Yeah, it feels like a lot of like more games now kind of take advantage of that like minimalism.
Yeah,
I mean, like a lot of games have options too where you can get rid of a lot of it, but by default you just kind of keep it up there. Like Red Dead, you could do without any of that stuff.
That was a really good use of it too.
Or fades in and out as needed. I like that kind of feature set too.
Sure.
I
was honestly trying to think, like, what Zelda game did that before, like, if there's anything, like, pre-Wii? I can't really think of that.
Ocarina always had your stuff in the corner, right?
Yeah.
I would assume Majora's follows suit.
Did the original... No, the original always had your heart. No, it had that whole top bar, yeah. Yeah, that's tough. I mean, the more I think about it, the more I'm thinking along the lines of like indie games and things like that. They're definitely
sure.
I'm gonna be able to cheat here a little bit. I think sports games, because the UI is usually all the information as on a TV screen at most given times.
Yeah, it's a technicality, but I'll accept it.
The only one I can think with like actual button prompts on is when you are pitching in a baseball game, because you have your buttons mapped to the pitch. But otherwise, I think you are kind of on your own.
Yeah, that makes sense.
You know, honestly, I think my very first game, it might have been on the NES when I was like 3 or 4, and it might have been like a Sesame Street educational game.
Oh, fair. Yeah.
Like counting numbers and shit.
It's a full screen 1, 2, 3.
Yeah, it would be like carnival themes. They're on like a Ferris wheel and stuff. And then whenever you got something right, like fireworks would happen, and it's very gratifying.
That's cute.
Yeah, Freddy Fish, you just have to click everything. There's no UI.
Yeah.
That's what makes it so hard.
Well, a weird segue brings us to a weird game, but I think an excellent game. Weird I say weird as a preface just in the sense that this was different compared to its contemporaries, and I think still stands out as a different game today. Ico, developed by Japan Studio with Team Ico, published by Sony Computer Entertainment, released first on the PlayStation 2 on September 25th, 2001. One of those rare occasions where a Japanese-made game released in North America before anywhere else. Our favorite moment of every episode, the back of the box quote. This back of the box quote stood out a bit. The front of the box very much stands out, but we'll talk more on that in a bit. The back of the box reads, "Within a world of enchantment and wonder, evil resides in an ancient castle. Ico, a young boy born with horns, has been expelled from his village and left within this isolated fortress. Embarking on a perilous quest to save himself as well as a beautiful princess, Ico must find a way to escape. However, escaping will be no easy task. Every towering staircase and stone block is a piece of a puzzle. Every open window, dangling chain, and razor-thin escape illuminates another mystery." Okay, so already we've got like a little bit of a weird kind of drawn-out, run-on explanation of the game, but we're not done. At the bottom, in all caps, weird gold, like almost like a font you would use or a typeface you would use on like a Halloween advertisement. I feel it's just in bright gold. "Solve the puzzles or join the tormented souls forever." The most, I don't know, intense threat for the game doesn't feel that threatening.
That's the threat of the game, though. They're not wrong.
They're not wrong. No, you're right.
No, but that's a very American approach to try to sell something.
Well, and I guess speaking of the American approach to try and sell something, we should address the box art. Are you both looking at an image of the box art at the moment?
I don't need to.
It's burned into your eyes
Yes.
and retinas for the rest of your life?
I've always seen the Japanese one. Let me look at the American one.
No, don't do
Gonna be
that.
a live reaction. This is going to be good.
Save yourself.
Is it Mega Man good?
Better.
Oh, yikes.
Yeah.
I don't. All right, so I think I've seen this one in the GameStops of the world, but the Japanese box art is the one I always remember for this game.
Yeah.
Yikes.
Yeah, so for this release, or for this session, I played the PS3 re-release that was packaged with Shadow of the Colossus on PS3, ported by Bluepoint from PS2 to PS3, and that included the appropriate box art that is much more subtle and, I think,
more
artful.
fitting.
Yeah, fitting. Yeah. Boy. So Ico, this was the first of Fumito Ueda's games. To date, we've had 3 major directorial or 3 games directed by Ueda. Ico, Shadow of the Colossus, and The Last Guardian just a few years back. This was the first one. This originally started development on the PlayStation 1, or the PSX if you're cool. And it took about 4 years to develop, so in that time they'd moved development over to the PS2, where it was eventually released. Mark, you added Ico to our list this year. What brought Ico to Season 11?
I've always been very fond of Ueda and his works, and that team. Granted, I haven't spent as much time as I would like to with all of these. I think The Last Guardian really was like my first of the series, seeing like a game from beginning to end. And there's always something endearing and charming about it that every time I've seen the game and to some degree in whatever media, whatever format, it always feels like like when people talk about like video games being art, that's one of the best examples that comes to mind for me. And I guess I just wanted to just share that and just see where the chips fall.
So this was your first time playing Ico.
Yes and no. Like, I've tried it before in the past, but I didn't have the mentality at the time to understand what I was exactly playing.
Yeah, I get that.
So I wanted to have a better approach to it this time around. And I think I did.
And Shadow of the Colossus, what's your history?
Never got far in that. I don't even think I even took down like the first Colossi. Maybe I did. I don't know. But I never had like the proper patience for that game. I don't hate it. Just I want to give it the time and respect that it deserves.
Yeah, that's fair. And then Matt, I feel like you've played Shadow, but not Ico nor The Last Guardian. Is that right?
No, I've actually never played Shadow, but I have watched a full playthrough of the game when I was younger via YouTuber, whatever. I haven't touched The Last Guardian. Ico is actually the only game of the three I have attempted to touch. I don't remember the date, but if a fond listener could look up the exact date, it became free on PlayStation Plus on the PS3. It was that week that I tried it, and I got 26 minutes into it and never touched it again.
You fell off of it. I remember when it came to PS3, and I'm going to save the full story, I think, for an episode we're doing in a few weeks regarding speed running, but a friend of mine and I were trying to get as many trophies as we could around this time, and we were coupling that with games that were less than desirable to play through, coupling those with games we actually wanted to play. And he very much was stoked that not only Shadow of the Colossus was coming to PS3, but Ico was coming. He'd played Shadow of the Colossus and loved it, hadn't played Ico, so he played through Ico to try and get the platinum in both. And I remember during that time, that was my like longest exposure to seeing it. And then I think I toyed with it a bit. Like, I didn't make it too far into it, but I never really like dove all the way in. So this was my first time through it as well. Up front, I would like to read a note that I wrote, because I started playing this right around the time we got done recording Resident Evil 4. Immediately putting my foot in my mouth after saying that no one has done AI like RE4 did with Ashley, because that was fully on display in Ico 4 years earlier. You had an AI companion who was there with you. You could call out to her and bring her along. And that's kind of the core of this game. So the Back in the Box does an apt job at setting the stage. You play as Ico. You are wandering through this castle trying to escape. And as you do, you find a girl trapped in a cage. You free her from said cage and then help lead her out to sea to escape. I mean, we all played it this time around. What were your overall sort of thoughts playing through it, Mark?
The whole time, like, I was just kind of appreciating just how it wasn't in like an open world game, but yet it still felt so vast because of the castle kind of being the main character in a way. That sense of isolation and just vulnerability of just being this kid and trying to get out and like and trying to like save Yorda by like by any means necessary while like working together. Like just everything about it, honestly, is what I wanted from a Zelda game. And this feels like it taps into that. Like if you were to remake the original Zelda, I would imagine it would be something like this.
I'm glad you said that, because my like final note that I kept as I was jotting things down, like I think I wrote this down. Yeah, I wrote it after my note about the final boss, so it had to be as the credits were rolling. Is that we need more Zelda games, just hands down. Like this was, I think, a perfect little realization of the spirit of what a Zelda game sets out to be. Like it's an adventure, it's a journey, and I know this is more of an escape than an adventure, but still, you know, it is that. But it's coupled with puzzles and exploration, and for me, I feel like there was just such a strong sense of balance in this game in terms of, I mean, quite literally in the map design, you're making sure you're doing what you did on the left, on the right, and, you know, finding that all the way through, but just in the sense that, like, you're weak, you're up against some, you know, the opposition, there's this light and dark, there's all of these little themes that did feel so much like Zelda. Yeah, I'm glad you drew that comparison. Matt, with you not having the strongest Zelda background, but playing through this, did you get any of that feeling? Did you equate this to something else you'd played, or?
I didn't really equate it with anything. I appreciated Yorda being so. That one thing that stood out immediately was Yorda is so capable as a companion. In terms of like the things she's able to do and can't do seem to make sense. Like I did not expect her to climb a chain, but please be able to climb a ladder. Oh, good, you can. You climb it slow to my liking, but you get there eventually. Like the jump she was making, there was one jump where I was like, I'll see, and then I reached out my hand and she did. I was like, okay, all right, we're progressing the game here. Okay, cool. I appreciated that a lot. It made me feel like, you know, kind of I'm doing all the work, but I felt like she kind of met me halfway there almost in a weird design way. But no, the main thing with this game is for me personally, and I think this is going to sound worse than I wanted to come across, but it was like a bipolar experience for me, where when I'm not playing the game and I still had to get through it for this episode, I never wanted to boot the application. I had zero drive to actually turn on because I played on PS3 like you did, Joe, on the remaster. I just could not. Obviously I did end up bringing myself to open up, but it was very hard to push myself to open it. However, once I'm in it, I have a good time for an hour. There's some solid gameplay and mechanics. And Joe, Mark, you hit the nail on the head. The atmosphere is the main character here. I liked the eerie silence. I liked the very much lack of cutscenes, and I liked the lack of explanation for anything. You are just dude with horns. You're for some reason put into this thing. You manage to get out. You stumble upon this girl who has some magical powers, and you figure, let's escape. Which what I would do in that situation. So, yeah, I really dug. You said the castle's the main character. I was kind of going more so the atmosphere, with just the lack of sound, and when music did come on, it was like haunting, or it was the very pleasant fucking main menu or save music. Oh my god, I was like, I would. While I did not want to maybe boot up the application, damn it, I was humming that save theme all throughout the day after playing it.
Was the ending theme the same as the beginning? Or is that its own song? Because I like that song a lot.
I don't know. I don't remember. I just started New Game Plus.
When the beat kicks in, it's like...
No. Like I said, I enjoyed, what music was, the set, like the tone and whatever. But yeah, no, again, it's nothing drove me to play it, and that's probably exactly what happened when I first played the game. I played for 28 minutes. I was like, oh, this is kind of cool. I'll come back to it. I just never had the wherewithal to come back to it, and then I literally remember the whole first section. I was like, oh, and there's I bet you that's the bench I sat down and never came back to, and I ended up running right past it this time, which was nice. But No, it was a weird thing, but ultimately, I think this is like a really good game, and I do like the atmosphere is the thing that always stood out. That and how capable Yorda is.
Real quick, fun little trivia about Yorda. I didn't even know this because I barely experienced it, but someone pointed out that she will subtly help you with puzzles. Like she'll sometimes like point at something that you need to interact with if you can't figure it out.
I did not notice that.
Yeah, there was one. I was trying to be really careful with timing on this one because I knew there was a trophy to beat it in under 4 hours and another one to beat it in under 2 hours.
Uh-huh.
I did not think I'd get the 2 hour playthrough on my first. And man, my final game clock was 4 hours and 9 minutes. And I feel like it was probably just like one of those dumb little things that I left unpaused for too long. But I was trying to just pause it whenever I could. If I needed to like think through the area or something. And then, so I wasn't burning the in-game timer. There was one point where I was like staring at it and I'm like, I forget which, I think it was you remember when you have to go up a chain and you have to run across those sewer grates?
Mm-hmm.
And the answer to the puzzle is you fall down the sewer grate of them, and you play it out from there. You call her over. I forget what it is.
You end up opening both doors. Yeah. You have to call her in.
Exactly, that's what it is. I missed that open grate, so I kept just like.
Because there's the whole area past it too. Yeah,
I went all the way past it and jumped over the thing, and I'm like, "What am I doing here? That was my 9 minutes. So if I hadn't done that, I probably would have been okay. But during that, I remember going back to her, and she just sort of like pointed up, and I was like, "I was up. I don't know what you." It didn't help me, but yeah. Speaking of the 4 hours and 9 minutes, my playtime probably would have been worse than that. But I did have one moment. I think like the only bad thing I can say about this game is I had a moment where I got through a puzzle. I had to like think through. I think this was. Guess I'm in the west side now, or maybe it's still east. I forget. But you're going up where the water is coming down. The like water sliding down the thing. You can't run up it. You have to shimmy up the wall and do a bunch of puzzles to turn off the water to get Yorda up and all that. I did all of that section and lighting the torches to open the doors and get the sword and like all of the things through that section and made it all the way to the next thing where you're, oh gosh, at that point you are, I think, approaching the area where you can get the basketball. More on that later. And I couldn't find a save point. There was no like good active save or, couch. So I was stuck on something, didn't know what to do. I'm like, I think I just need to leap. I need to jump from where I am over to there. Nope, not what I had to do at all. And it reset me all the way back. And like, it probably lost me real world time, like, I don't know, an hour and change, a little bit over an hour. I ended up like looking at where my save file from where I, restarted to the time I got to my actual next save. It was 16 minutes. So I was able to like speed run through that hour and shave off what probably would have been a final hour. But I think that was my only problem with the game throughout it is like, there were a couple of spots right in that middle section that just felt like, nope, there's no good checkpointing. And overall, there's no good checkpointing. It still is bound to those classic, like, you save at this save point, and that is it. There's no restarts. There's no whoops. There's no... Because even if you hit continue after you die, you just reload the save. But, yeah.
Maybe this is the me playing RE4 Remake a lot, but I started quickly thinking of those couches as area typewriters. And like constantly checking in with them to save my progress after major things. And I benefited from that because I had something similar. I fucked up shortly after the East Tower after doing like one or two parts of the puzzle to complete it. And then I died on the wraparound, or so I didn't die, but Yorda got taken. I was like way too far away to go rescue her as you kind of snaked back around. I died, and then I reloaded, got through it, and then there was like a next part where I was kind of unsure what to do, and I died again, and I went all the way back. I was like, fuck. And then from that point on, I was just like, all right, whenever I see a couch, this is like my typewriter in this area of the mansion. We're going to keep checking back in with this after some major progress, and I made sure to kind of start doing that more often.
Yeah, I did the same thing from that. Like, it was a lesson learned, and once I learned it, that was like, okay, I will never forget this. But otherwise, like, I feel like this game was just, near perfect overall. I was super surprised. I know I kind of opened with that as our cold open or hard open or wet open or whatever you want to call it. But there's no UI in the game at all. There's no anything. And it was so refreshing, I think, compared to not just today's games, because obviously I can go on forever about how just overwhelming and stupid and pointless all these fake currencies and how all of that crap is in games. But even compared to back then, like, think about how hard it was for us to come up with examples at the top of games without UI. There's not many. And even when there are, like, do any of them do it well? And this one, like, I was never yearning for, oh boy, I wish there was something on the screen right now, or I wish there was a pop-up or a map, or, like, I did not need any of it.
I looked at a button config menu very early.
Yeah, but that, that I always chalk up when we're playing games like this from back then. Like, I look at that as, well, I would have pulled the manual out and looked at what was in there. So there, you know what I mean? I think that makes sense. But I think I did at some point just because I was feeling a little weird. But I remember the very first moment you get control of Ico and taking a step through, like, I was hitting buttons and seeing what they did. And there were certain ones where, like, it was just intuitive. Like, I bet you circle's the thing to, oh yeah, okay, that's the one. X doesn't jump. Well, it's probably triangle. Yep. Okay. Got it. Then my favorite discovery was R1. Find out that you can over and over again. But like, conversely, I feel like any game, if this game were made today, not by Ueda, because I feel like he's probably going to stick to this design approach. But if you task someone else with making a game like Ico, it would get passed through so many layers, especially a AAA game. It would get passed through so many layers of QA and all this crap and feedback and whatever, so that when you had to pull up Yorda from a jump, the R1 button would be flashing on the screen so that you would make sure that that's what you, like, and you didn't need to. You just needed to, like, call out to her, let her jump, and then that was it and all you needed to do. And
yeah,
that I very much appreciated that.
Yeah, I will say, like, the game does have some things that probably haven't aged the greatest, but I don't think it gets in the way of the experience. But like figuring out the buttons, like, I can see how that might be a little difficult to grasp at first or something like that.
Don't take that as a complaint. Like, it was literally 30 seconds, went into the menu, looked at what interact was, and how to swing a weapon. And I was all right, got it. 4-button game.
Well, the point for me, I had issue with was the chain physics. Because, like, I didn't understand one button was to go up, one button was to get off. You had to rotate yourself and then make sure that if you're jumping off of it, your back has to be facing the way that you mean to. Because in other games, like, typically your face, if you're facing that way, you will just jump forward that way in other video games. So, like, I had a lot of that, like, logic that I had to relearn. With stuff like that, and then learning, like, when you have Yorda with you, things are a little different too with some of your button stuff, or if you have a weapon in your hand or something. Which wasn't hard. It was just, I'm glad that they gave you the time to experiment with that without having to worry about any stressors like enemies or what have you. Even though I did struggle when you first get Yorda and she gets taken away. Your instinct is to grab that stick and whack them, but you're never fast enough, or I was never fast enough to hit them. So I'm just like running around on top of her while she's sinking in this black hole. I'm like, what do I do? What do I don't know what to do here. And then finally R1 happened. I was like, oh, okay. You pulled her out.
So I picked up the stick instinctively before she got. And I thought that picking up the stick actually triggered them to grab her.
I think that's
So
why.
then I was swinging, trying to just murder them, and I scared them off. But then,
oh yeah. I was definitely late with that reaction.
I feel like the Demon's Souls team was heavily inspired by this game. I kept getting Demon's Souls, Dark Souls vibes when like running across the bridges, but also just like the organization of your tasks in this game felt very much like that game to me. And maybe that's because it's two games that both decided to use modern technology with classic design sensibilities. Maybe that's why I got that feeling, and maybe it was just the castle overall, but like,
if there was a shortcut, if there was one shortcut, this would have been right up that alley.
Yeah.
I think my one major complaint about this game is the combat sections. The later ones get, not the last room, but like the later ones, they seem to get a little crazy. And there's no good way, because the cameras are fixed angles that rotate kind of as you go across the room. You don't have the power of the right analog stick that is not invented yet in this era of games. So I hate it, like especially the flying enemies. I never knew where they were coming from. If there was a lock on button, like there was more than enough buttons available in that PS2 controller to do that. I feel like if I had a lock on, it would have been combat a lot more cleaner. I feel like sometimes I was just swinging, and I thought I was swinging at something, and ended up being error, and then because of that, you already got taken away. And sometimes in those later levels, like you're on different levels, and it's not ideal because you just can't suicide jump because you will die. And by the time you kind of like make it back around to where you can get down and back to where you're kind of already sunken into the hole and you're turned to stone. It was just a little bit of frustration there. So yeah, I think that like a lock on button would have been like probably the best fix for that.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't think L2 did anything in this. So
no, it didn't. That's what or was that the zoom, or was R2 zoom? One of them. I think
R2
zoom.
was zoom.
Yeah, that was like the main thing. Complaint wise.
Mark, what did you hate?
I think even though this game excels in like, wanting you to figure things out for yourself, and there's no HUD and stuff like that, no real like hand-holdy things other than literal hand-holding. There could be a little direction with some things, like example, like you were just saying with that great thing. It kind of sucks to explore a giant room just to realize you're going too far ahead, and then you have to like backtrack, and the backtracking can be a little less favored.
Yeah.
I think it's okay to have things a little more linear. Just to let you know that you're in the right area, like some kind of indicator. Like maybe like Yorda could make a noise, or
you could lift up your stick and a light could beam off of it in the direction you need to go. Like maybe a successor might do.
Sure. I wonder if that was the reason.
Yeah,
but yeah, I definitely think something like that, because I was at one part and I thought I was supposed to be there, and then I just think I was just too far ahead or something like that. Just couldn't figure it out in time, or yeah. But I guess, maybe the intention was to really be patient and exploring and having that be part of the adventure, what have you.
But sometimes I don't think you get this as much early, because a lot of the early stuff is much like it's one puzzle in the area, and there's not a lot of connecting the dots. But later on, I made note specifically of the water tower section. It's a big puzzle, and there's 3 parts to it. But I feel like in some games, you would have to do first part first, second part second, third part third. I ended up accidentally kind of doing this in reverse order, and I was like very happy that the game allowed me to like, oh, all right, I know this part. Like literally, like the first thing I should have done was figure out how to get Yorda to me, like in this like other half of this section or this whole other section. But I ended up figuring out like how to get to the checkpoint doors, the ones that Sly or any Yorda she opens with her powers. I ended up like learning, like figuring out how to get there first and opened it. Then how to like get this bridge down with bombs, throwing it at this water tower, literally the water tower, and it falls over and it knocks over something to create this bridge that what would be for Yorda as soon as she's at your section. And then I was like, oh shit, I guess I gotta figure out how to get Yorda over, and then it like ended up being like in that first little part I walked right by. And I'm just happy that like the game let me like explore and figure out the world at my own kind of pace. And there was other instances of that. Like the second tower, I don't know if you have to scale. I never needed to scale the water sliding part. I don't know if you, I think you can, and you can get to the lever that way, but I did it another way. I pulled the chain and I got rid of all the water.
Yeah. You're talking about like you don't need to do the wall climb.
The wall climbing in that room up the.
Yeah, no. I didn't do that the second time around. You could.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But yeah. Yeah, because when you come in from the one side, you end up like right at that.
Yeah,
lever.
you like
you just pull it,
rotate around. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it's like, I don't know if it's a flaw or maybe I just like misunderstood what was going on. But I think sometimes trying to call Yorda over and she doesn't go to the spot you want her to can be a little of a nuisance. Where it's like, okay, look, I just hopped down this ledge, or either by ladder or by chain, which I know you're fully capable of handling. Yet she runs all the way across the other side of the room, stays at a balcony, and she just stands there. I'm like, what?
Yeah, there were a few times too where I was like trying to get her to go up a ladder.
Yeah. Or
down, whatever, whichever direction. And she'd start doing it, and then I'd like move Eco like a little bit, and then she'd just stop and go the opposite direction. I'm like, no, come
I think the key is not to call on the ladder. I figured it out.
I think I maybe learned that like naturally without being able to
I didn't learn it until like the last third of the game. But if you keep calling on the ladder, like to follow, she does not take that as follow. She takes that as get the fuck out of the way. Let me come back up.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, because by the time
like once that she'll follow suit as long as you keep going down.
Yeah, like I probably wasn't too far from the ladder, but I was on the ground when I called her, so maybe she still thought. But like, but she overcorrected by running all the way across the room. It was just like if you're gonna move, you can move like a foot from it. Like you're not gonna be in the way right there.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it didn't like I said, like that's like a minor gripe at most.
No, overall, like, I don't know how much more I can say on this one without getting into like specific story spoilers. And honestly, I mean, you can play this game 6-ish hours. I think like is probably what I put into it.
That was north of 5.
Yeah, like I think just your time with it, minus some maybe frustrating missteps or restarts. Like it's not inherently long. It's a little bit difficult to maybe obtain these days. I should say, in preparation for this season, once we announced to each other all the games we were going to play, I set out to hit up some retro game stores and find what I can find and whatnot. And I did find this for like, I don't know, $22, ready to go, PS2. Then I was like, you know what? It's got trophies, it's on PS3. Jim Ryan did one good thing and left the PlayStation Store online. I should buy that digital version anyway. And so I did that, and I bought. I got a little ahead of myself, and I bought Eco and Shadow of the Colossus both because they were $10 a piece. And I figured my goal was to play both of them and read Nick Sutner's book about Shadow of the Colossus before we recorded. I only completed Eco, did not start either of the other two ventures. But yeah, anyway, Eco's, I mean, it's $10 or based on my one store I found the game in, $20 out there in the wild. So, it's not as easy as just like, hey man, it's on the eShop, go grab it. But, it is, it's out there. I think
Yeah.
you should play it if you're out there and you haven't. I think it is, more than anything, it was refreshing to play this game right now.
Definitely. It tends to like I try not to be biased about it, but like the more I learn about it, the more I've come to like appreciate it.
Yeah.
And like just Ueda as a person kind of becomes inspiring to me because like he came from like a visual arts background, if I remember correctly. He's never made a video game before, and this was his first. And I'm pretty sure he did the cover for all the other regions.
Yes.
Not America.
Yeah.
That is correct. I'm
So
looking
it's
at the
like-
fact right here.
Yeah, so like for him to really put all that he could of himself into this in various ways, that speaks a lot to me. Makes it
Yeah,
feel possible.
I agree. Like that element of it, it's difficult to separate like the art from the artist on this one. The
Mhm.
more you read about his background, his like approach, it is something to envy, I think. And I think that's what makes it that much more compelling. Even after playing the game and knowing more about him and whatnot, that now that I've looked into it, like I even more want to play Shadow of the Colossus, but I think it speaks through his work that like I was, even before playing this, already like, oh yeah, it's time. Like I need to, and I made sure I was like ready to jump in. And even I did stop myself from buying Last Guardian. That's on sale as we're recording for $10. And I was like, let me not get it. It'll be on sale again. I don't need it right now. I'm not going to play it right now. I need to play Shadow before I play anything. But yeah, I mean, his catalog so far has been impressive. And this was the start of it. This was really, really great.
Shadow got the Blue Point treatment too.
Yeah. I think, well, first it got the Blue Point treatment on PS3, Matt. That's where Blue Point got its.
Sorry.
But it got the full Blue Point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then
I'm
it
a
would go
little
into
iffy.
Blue Point Demon Souls. Huh, look at that.
Hey. I wonder. Wonder what's next for them.
Original IP from.
They're
sources.
probably remaking Eco with a mashing R1 button overlay when you try and pull up Yorda. That's their project right now.
Nah, they don't
But
do
hey,
that.
locking on though.
They don't do that. They stay
I've got-
faithful.
Yeah, and you're right. I've got two more little thoughts. I thought we'd close on the Zelda games bit, but we kind of got into that early, which I like. Plainly, I will just say I really think that this was one of the best final boss fights I've played in a while, and I
was
thought
gonna
it
bring
was
that up.
perfect for this game itself. Like, it did not ask more of you than you had learned or earned at this point. It's new mechanics in a way, but it was not too like challenging. It was like just the right amount of challenge to feel like I had a sense of completion in the end, and I earned the win.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There were some emotional stakes there too that I think added to all of that. And I really liked the language barrier in this.
Oh my gosh, thank you for bringing that up too. Yes, that was so good. Through this whole journey, like even the fact that like you don't get subtitles. I mean, you do, but they're not legible.
So that's the interesting thing about this. Apparently, if you do like a new game,
You get them.
it translates. But I liked that that Eco and Yorda spoke two different languages, but that didn't stop them from understanding each other.
Yeah, they found a way.
Yeah,
that was
kind of
powerful.
like that's what I like about Tekken. Oddly enough, where like every character speaks their own native tongue, but yet they can all understand each other.
Yeah, that's a good. Never thought about that.
Something to appreciate there. But yeah, for that fight, just for everything to reach that point, how it did, it was touching, especially if you stayed after the credits.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought up the boss fight because I was going to bring that up as like my last point. When you go into the room you kind of realize you can move some things. And
Yeah.
my immediate gut was to, well, let's just start moving them into the middle now. And then you realize you can't push it into like what you think could be where they go. So then I was like, all right, well, let me try to pull a Leon. Again, I'm playing a lot RE4 Remake, sorry. Let me pull a Leon and sit on the throne with a cool little gesture. And then I was quickly booted from that seat.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, and then before I went back, because before the fight initiates, you have to kind of go back towards the throne. And even then, I was trying to move them back into the middle, and it wasn't working. So then I finally go back, and then I'm like kind of realizing, oh, I see how this is all put together. It was a nice puzzle for what is essentially like an environmental puzzle game.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
and I like
it's Portal
we
before
haven't
Portal.
talked about the kind of the antagonist of this game, but it's the queen of this castle you're at, and I really liked the queen as a villain. Like, she was subtle, but like really.
In 2 scenes.
What was that?
She's in 2
Yeah,
scenes.
you're right. Yeah, barely in the game, but very powerful, very evocative. I very, very much like the queen's presence in this game.
But, I mean, take away the main opening cutscene, I think she's in both cutscenes. Like, I can't think of another cutscene.
Yeah, no.
I mean, besides the like ones like show opening doors, but that's not.
No,
Sure.
yeah, that's just, yeah.
In seeing this, coming to this after The Last Guardian, I kind of like that there's been a theme with all of these games with how they tackle these stories, and they feel like fairy tale-esque in a way, but like they all kind of hit similar notes with the pacing.
Yeah, does this... I feel like, knowing what I know of Shadow, and I remember a good bit of Last Guardian from when we talked about it, Game of the Year stuff back in 2016, but I mean, does he sort of stick to the same structure in later games, or do you feel, and I guess Matt, you know a bit about Shadow too, like, is this sort of a one-off, or are all of the games sort of in this vein? And I guess, second question, was it sort of weird going backwards to it, like, as a player, or would you...
It didn't
like,
feel
sometimes
weird.
You go backwards to earlier games in a creator's series, and it's like, oh, I see what they did here. This was nice, and I can see where it led to them making whatever. But, like, did this still feel good after playing Last Guardian and knowing what he'd later make?
Oh, definitely. I think like it was nice seeing the roots in the DNA that you could tell what was appreciated and what was kept and what wanted to be improved upon throughout the games. And it's not that big of a library. It's only been like 3 titles, so it's like it's kind of nice to still have those features to be explored and not feel stagnant or overwhelmed because there's like 20 in the series or something. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
it still has that growth and room to it that you can cherish.
Yeah, I mean, again, I never played Shadow, but like you can see, like, all right, in Eco, like you're in an area to solve the puzzle. It's kind of the same gameplay mechanic in Shadow, right? Like instead of being in a room, you're kind of in a boss arena. In hell, even the boss is the arena itself. You have to figure out the puzzle to make and bring down the Colossi. Yeah, I guess I don't know necessarily how specific Last Guardian is gameplay wise, but it seems like that environmental storytelling / puzzle all combined together. I think with atmosphere is like his
like
sauce.
Last Guardian is like the closest to Eco that you're probably going to get, and like like there's never been confirmation with a lot of this stuff, but you could definitely connect all 3 of these games if you really wanted to.
Yeah,
but,
well, Shadow's the prequel to Ico, right?
Right, but I can't remember if that was
is
like.
It, by the way, I think I say it wrong
It's
every
Eco.
time. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, I grew up saying Ico, but then I learned it was Eco. But yeah,
Mario,
like I'm not sure if I'm not sure if Ueda ever confirmed that, but you could definitely connect the dots there, and not
Right.
feel wrong about it, which I like to do anyway, because they also share similar visual styles and worlds. That's like
Mhm.
it's hard not to make those connections.
Well, and I think as a creator, you're probably gonna inherently kind of weave these things in each other, whether you realize it or not. So
Yeah.
there's always a connective thread, even if there isn't a defined one. I've got one final thought that I'll throw out there as we prepare to rank Eco on the list. How was Eco not in PlayStation All Stars Battle Royale?
I
How was
feel like-
Crash not in PlayStation All Stars Battle Royale?
Fair counter. Yeah, they really botched that whole.
I could also see Wander being more of the character they would pick for that. It might probably have like an Eco level or something. Just Wander seems more like the fighter.
Yeah, it'd be cooler if the stage was a
Experienced fighter,
Colossi,
rather.
though.
Yeah, but I mean, I guess you want more than just like some type of sword or stick, right? You get a sword and a bow and probably better
Yeah.
acrobatic abilities or something. You have a horse. I don't know.
Yeah,
it's
no, but
strange.
yeah.
But in a way, I'm kind of glad it didn't. I don't know. Like,
it is nice that it's just this nice little quaint thing. I'm not. Yeah.
yeah, like I think at most there was DLC for like Little Big Planet, the costume stuff. So that's cute,
Didn't
at
everything
least.
hit Little Big Planet, though?
Yeah, but like that felt more accepting.
Yeah.
Time to rank it. If you want to follow along with the list, you can do that at thefreecheese.com/the list. Eco. Oh boy.
I will say you all brought me up. My score is not indicative with how I'm feeling right now after our conversation, so I'm just gonna lead off with that.
Feel free to punch up your score if you're feeling differently about it, I guess.
No, score is a score. It's set in stone now. It's on a saved document right in front of me.
All right, done and done.
Mm.
Yeah, no, I feel really solid about this game. It's just very difficult because we're in a tough spot of like, how good do I feel about this game?
Yeah.
In
In ways, I feel better than Quake about this game. In ways, I feel.
Whoa.
Let me not get too crazy here.
it's funny. I didn't even pick up on the UI thing until you asked the question.
Is that a good thing or a bad thing? Do you?
I think it's a good thing. I think we're back to like Mario 1 ways of teaching how to play a game without teaching how to play a game. It's just intuition kicks in.
I think I would put it above another game that has very minimal UI. And that would be Hotline.
All right, so you're up in that realm too. Which, listeners, if you're not looking at the list, Quake is 2 and Hotline's 3. So, do we like this over Quake?
No.
Yeah, like I could do that, but for some reason it doesn't feel right. I don't know why. I like after everything I just said, something about it just like it feels insulting. Like I feel like
No,
it
all right,
shouldn't.
but we all feel good about it above Hotline, right?
I do like this. Funny enough, I do actually like this.
I
more
was
than
below
Hotline.
Hotline. If we're up in this realm, I was below Hotline and above Portal.
We can do that too, though. Like, I don't hate Hotline in comparison or anything. Just, it's probably because I played Hotline so much and I played very little of Eco is probably why.
And my
I'm
reasoning
thinking of that.
is like, if at a whim's notice, I was told, all right, you have to play Quake again. I'm like, okay. I was told I have to play Hotline again. I'm like, okay, here we go.
Sure.
And this is the one where it's like, even with the incentives of New Game Plus, the speedrunning incentive and the language stuff to get more understanding maybe of some lore here.
Yeah.
I just
Yeah, like, if
I
we're
don't know.
judging
I don't know if
by-
we come back to it.
Watermelon in your second playthrough, just jot that down.
I there's like a lightsaber too, right? Can't you
Yeah.
get? Yeah.
Sure, like Wii Sports, Quake, Hotline Miami, they all have easy drop in, drop out moments that you don't have to play the whole thing through to enjoy the experience.
True.
And Eco is not a slow burn, but that is something that you can't approach by piecemealing it, which is fine. It doesn't have to be. That doesn't make it a bad thing either. It is its own thing, so that's why, like, I'm fine. I'm fine either way with where this is placed. I feel like it's going to be in the top 10 regardless.
Yeah, for sure.
So, like, I'm already okay with that. But yeah, like, I can put it below Hotline. That's not a problem.
I'm trying to think beyond just my own. Obviously, we can't like completely remove subjectivity from this. That would be silly. But outside of that, just like in the terms of like, okay, we're ranking these games as being the best games. I feel like, forgive me, but I do feel like Hotline can feel long in the tooth at times when you are trying to get from beginning to end. I feel like
Sure.
this did not waste anything. This was very intentional. I think to its detriment a little bit, maybe like once you realize that you're really just going to run on the west side what you just did on the east side, it's kind of like, well, all right, I know what to do. So the challenge is lost there in terms of like puzzle solving, but it's still for a sense of balance, for lack of a better word. I think this game flowed really well. I think it was just like a nice, perfect package.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it's apples and oranges at this point. I'm good. Let's do it. Let's slap it above Portal, below H line. Is that what the real fans call it? Is H line Miami?
Sure.
I thought so. So the new number 4, dropping Portal 2 to number 5, Sonic Frontiers to number 6. Actually, the big important thing is that it bumps down well, down out of the top 10 and into number 11.
Shaking it up.
I know. All right, I've got one more thing I'll close on. The autocorrect of me typing in the back of the box text did not catch Eco's name. It kept it Eco in the second instance, but the first one where it introduces, it says, evil resides in an ancient castle. It says Ice, a young boy born with horns. Man, can you imagine if they had brought this game over here and actually renamed him and named him Ice?
That probably would affect everything.
Yeah, the box art was pretty bad enough, but well, there you have it. We've ranked another one. Eco's made it to the list. Our 60th game on the list, I think. We will be back next week with Donkey Kong for the Game Boy. Come hang out with us then. Until then, thank you, Mark. Thank you, Matt. Thank you, Ueda. And thank you, listener, for listening. See you next time.